Coming up on Theater Talk.
I have to say I've had about maybe 4 plays written for me, and I read them and I think, I'd rather die. I can only say that because most of the playwrights are dead. But this play, I love.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation. From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins.
And I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post. Susan, there's a fine new play here in New York at the Cherry Lane Theater. It is called Out of the Mouths of Babes, and it is by the legendary, if I may call you that, Israel Horovitz, who has written...
I'm that old now.
No, okay, all right. The talented, how's that, Israel?
It seems like you go from promising to legendary
overnight.
In a flash, yeah.
A new play from Israel Horovitz is always an event, so welcome to Theater Talk.
Thank you.
And it stars and is being produced by Angelina Fiordellisi. Did I get it right?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, well, welcome to Theater Talk. And my co-star from way back when in my momentary career as an actor.
Was that the only thing you ever did?
That was the only thing I ever did was with you, Estelle.
I ruined you.
I know, because I thought if you start at the top, where else are you going to go?
But bring the audience in on this.
Yes, my good friend Estelle Parsons, who when I was a kid at Columbia University, cast me in the play Miss Margarita's Way. I remember sharing a dressing with you. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah. We did it at the Teachers College.
That's right.
Remember?
I do remember.
He'll never forget it.
It's a scary, well, you guys work with her, right? But can you imagine, I'm 18, 19 years old. She's playing the fascist, Miss Margarita, who tortures people in the classroom, and I'm the student.
It was a huge stretch for Estelle, too.
I saw that tour. I saw that tour in Cleveland.
Estelle, this is your life.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, welcome all. So, Israel, if you will, just tell us, Out of the Mouths of Babes, what's it about and how you put it together? What got you thinking about writing a play about this subject?
Well, Angelina at some point asked me if I would be interested in writing a play for Estelle and Judith.
Judith Ivey, who's also...
You don't even have a good story there. The good story is we were at the gala. It was one of those nights. Yes. We were all at the gala. Judy Ivey, me, Israel, and it was her gala.
Because Angelina is a major force at the Cherry Lane Theater.
It is her theater.
Well,
Yes.
we were honoring Estelle. It was the 90th anniversary of Cherry Lane. We were honoring Estelle.
And the 150th anniversary
of Estelle.
So the next thing we knew, he was going to write a play for Judith and me. And we've been all together in the same room ever since.
Last year, she did a play of mine called My Old Lady.
Right, yeah.
That a revival of that
But don't
play.
you want to tell them the first thing I was in that you wrote?
What was it?
Well, don't anybody listen.
No, you don't have to.
I wrote a play called The Reason We Eat.
The Reason We Eat.
At a point in time in history when obesity was illegal. And Estelle played a 600-pound woman. And it's possibly the only play of mine where critics unanimously use the word disgusting.
And I lost my entire fan base. I was building up this great fan base after the Academy Award, and movies.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, my entire fan base disappeared from the world.
No.
It's true.
Did you do it in a fat suit? Did you do it in a fat suit?
Of course I did it in a fat suit. Was Shelley Winters in it, or was she
No.
She was just persecuting me.
No.
Who else was in it?
Bob Balaban
Oh,
Bob
Bob
Balaban.
Balaban.
played the guard.
Were they mad at you for
what was this play about?
humiliating fat people?
It was
I don't
set in an
remember
obesity
about
prison.
Where?
An obesity prison.
It was set in the obesity prison.
It's I don't have a copy of it.
Okay.
It's something we've all forgotten. No, when there was a girl in it, she smoked so much marijuana, we were all reeling around the rehearsal.
And
room.
I want
Oh,
to thank Estelle for bringing this up.
I'm sorry.
I'm calling
public
Samuel
television.
French. I'm going to find this play. We're going to do the next benefit for the Cherry Lane Theater is going to be a reading of obesity.
But you know,
Okay.
this is somebody told me you don't write commissioned plays, so this is a new thing for you.
This is the only time I've ever written for actors.
This play, Out of the Mouths of Babes, the new
Yeah,
play.
having written 70-something plays.
Yeah.
This was the first
And I have to
time.
say, I've had about maybe 4 plays written for me, and I read them and I think, I'd rather die. You know, I can only say that because most of the playwrights are dead. But this play, I love. I love doing it.
I love this girl.
He's the first playwright who's written for me that I think, yes, I want to play that.
Yeah,
I'm
he's
from
written you a great
South
part.
Boston, great part.
Well, tell us, Israel, tell us about the play, because most people will not have seen it.
Well, anyway, Angelina asked me if I would be interested in writing for them, and
And he looked us over.
Judith did a play of mine called Park Your Car and Hard
Of
Park
course, I
Your Car
remember
and
with Jason.
Harvard Yard.
Yeah, with Jason Robards on Broadway.
There are 2 people I really love. I don't have that many friends. I have 2 or 3 other friends, and that's about it. So I thought, this is a chance.
Spend some time together.
And I can tell you that I took it seriously, but not very seriously, and there was going to be some sort of benefit at an apartment to raise money for the budget or something like that. And I said, yes, I'd go to that. And a couple of weeks before the benefit, my wife actually read the invitation, and it said that the first act would be read at the benefit. And at that point, I hadn't written a word.
Nothing like a deadline.
So there was a level of panic that I had never actually felt before. The play is set in Paris, and it probably is going to be the second in a trilogy of plays that I'm writing set in Paris. And 4 women, 3 American women, Estelle, Judith, and Angelina, arrive in Paris for the funeral of a man who's just died at age 100. It's a play with 4 women, and all of these women have either been married to or had affairs with this man, sometimes simultaneously. And these women have never been in a room together.
And so we learn about this man through the perspectives of each of the women, because they have seen
We
him in a
do that in
a different way.
Yeah, it's possibly a play that Beckett wouldn't have written, but
That's right.
So Angelina, just give us a sense of the character that you play and her relationship to this man.
I play the character of Janice, who is hysterical, suicidal, manic depressive, and
Totally
he gave
nuts.
her
Easy part, right?
yeah, easy, typecasting. But she's a wonderful character who does some pretty odd things in the play, and
She's got the best role.
I love her.
I mean, he wrote it for Judith and me, but she's got the best role.
So what is the party?
know about that.
Sorry, go ahead, Israel.
she owns the theater. I mean,
He wanted to make sure
knows
it
what
was
he's
done.
doing.
Right.
And then what's your and the part that he wrote for you, Estelle? What is your character?
My character's from South Boston.
that's all you need.
It's
to know.
interesting because the guy who died is an expat. And I don't know how much time you spend abroad, but you know that whole expat group?
Yeah.
They're really like being Americans in the old days in
Like
another
Gertrude Stein?
place.
Yeah,
And their
exactly.
lives are totally different, and mine was too, are totally different than they would have been if they'd stayed home in America.
Right.
And,
You
and
know,
they're
it's
sort of-
fascinating.
They're sort of acting out the French,
Yeah.
the French cliche way
Yeah.
beyond anything
Yeah.
any Frenchman would ever do.
It's
I
very
spent
funny.
a lot of time in Paris. Maybe.
I think what he was going to say was that when we read that first act,
Yeah.
everybody laughed so much.
Yes.
that we knew we had this great, funny play, which he hadn't even written yet, right? And then,
absolutely
thank
right.
heaven, when the second act came
Well,
around.
I was going to
it
ask you,
was-
that could be
yeah.
the problem, the second act, right?
I don't think we were worried about it. Oh, boy. But it turned out to be great.
Yes, he heightens in the second act.
Yeah.
Tops himself in the second act.
You have to do that if you write comedy.
Yeah.
This is a question, though. You're all experts in this area. How come, Israel, so often we hear about the second act problem? Great first act, and then but the second act. Why is there always a second act problem?
I've never had the problem. I have no idea why this. Well, I guess everything has to accumulate. I hate science fiction because you can put somebody in a corner and then they just fly away. And in a play, you really have to work it out, and it's a hard game. You
Right.
know, it's kind of easy to just bring 1 million people into the room, but hard to make it all spell mother.
And to tie it all up.
Yeah.
Do you know immediately, Estelle, when somebody hands you a new play and you read it and you get in the second act and you think, uh-oh, I can identify the problem? Is it usually right there early on?
Oh, yeah. I think so.
I think the biggest problem of plays and movies are really in the first 5 minutes. That how many times have you been watching a play and it's like 4.5 minutes into it and you say, I hate it already?
More and more.
More and more, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's rare that you say, I hate it already and ever really come back, get brought back into it
That's true.
and like it. So, I kind of think the first 5 minutes are the most important.
I think it depends. It depends on the writer too. Some writers cannot figure out exactly what the first act is, and the second act is beautiful, but somehow they can't figure out the first act. I have found in my experience.
I think I always think I know how the play ends.
Right.
Before I start the play, this was a rare exception, but I normally really delude myself into thinking I know exactly what I'm doing, and then like halfway through, I have that moment of saying, "Isn't it interesting where this play is taking me?" And it usually takes me to a much darker place but that's just me.
But you had a through line. So many of the shows, when there's a second act problem, you feel that the author brought in their big idea to create it in the first place and then just didn't know where to go. They sort of...
Well,
Yeah, you have
or
to
just couldn't-
lead to the second
You have
act,
to
don't
lead.
you? If you build it up too much
Yeah.
in the first act, the second act is going to be a disappointment.
Of course, more
knows what
more
he's
and
doing.
more there are fewer and fewer two-act plays. Most plays.
90 minutes. They're all 90 minutes and out.
And so often you feel, I mean, I know audiences want that, but so often you feel like they dare not let you go. They dare not let you have intermission.
I know.
Well,
Isn't that terrible?
I've heard producers say that.
Yes,
that comes
yes.
up, yeah.
The only people who don't like 90-minute plays are the theater owners because they want the bar concession at
Right.
intermission. You know this, right? Oh, need the cherry lane.
And also, there are a lot of people who have to go to the bathroom.
Exactly. There are,
but isn't
there are
that true?
prostate issues that have to be considered.
Yeah.
These are the practical problems of working in the theater.
I don't know how interesting this is, but it's a totally different form to write when there's no intermission or when there is an intermission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as an intermission, there has to be an act ending that promises a second act to bring
Yeah.
the audience back.
Yeah.
And from the technical point of view, though, too, when you begin the second act, you have had all the people have just left. They've had a drink. They've gone to the bathroom. They've done that. You have to settle them down and bring
Get
them back
back
in
in
the
again.
world.
That's
Get
right.
get their cell phones turned off again.
Well, that's
Right.
all of
True.
that. Yes.
exactly.
The music is
You
important.
got to talk louder when you
This-
come out to
this
do the
play-
second act.
is that a trick?
Oh,
You just rev them up.
This play is really a second act. It really is a two-act play.
Yes, it
It
is.
really has a first act ending.
Yes, it does.
You want to tell
But
me?
you
No,
know,
no, you
Pendleton-
mustn't. That's
Austin
good. Don't.
Pendleton said about the first 5 minutes of a show. He said in the first 5 minutes you can see how good the director was, whether if the actors are all playing separate plays or if they're all working together. In the first 5 minutes, you know what you're in for.
Know what
Yeah.
you're in for. Yeah.
There's-
Yeah.
I remember a New Yorker cartoon back when I first came to New York. There was a spate of shows of famous actors sitting on stools reading important plays. Do you remember that? Brecht on Brecht. And
Oh, yeah,
all of
yeah,
that?
Don Juan
yeah.
and
And
Hal,
there was
yeah.
a New Yorker cartoon with the curtains about that far off the stage, and you can see the legs of 4 stools, and the man in the audience turns to his wife, and the caption is, "I hate it already." And I've never forgotten. It's really influenced me more than Chekhov.
And you know,
for example.
yeah.
Exactly. Well, I just want to talk a little bit about the Cherry Lane Theater because I live in the Village. And what was the Cherry Lane originally? Was it always a little off-Broadway theater, or
No, it was built as a brewery in 1836.
that's why it's got the big entrance there, like the doors.
And we have some photographs where it says something ales. You can only see the ales part of it. And then it's had several lives. It was a tobacco warehouse, and it was a box factory when, in 1924, it was converted by a group of theater artists that broke off from the Provincetown Playhouse. And they turned it into the Cherry Lane Playhouse.
So it was a real bohemian kind of place, right? Back when the
Yes.
West Village was not
the
Beverly Hills
commies
today, but
in the
commies and poor
Village.
people could live there.
Yes, yes.
It's my
Bohemians.
absolute favorite theater in New York City, period.
Why?
It has a wonderful history. It's a beautiful neighborhood, a beautiful theater, and I can walk to it from my house in 10 minutes. And
Did
there's
you-
something about walking from home to the theater with a script under your arm that
Here I am.
here I am.
Did you ever play there before, Estelle?
Yes, my very first play I did there in 1962.
Mrs. Dally has a lover.
by Bill Hanley. In your second half there at that time, it was a strip joint. So I'd be in the middle of this, me and my teenage lover, and the second act of this. No, it was a one-act play, actually. But anyway, we'd be in that very quiet moment, and you'd hear bum, ba, ba, bum, ba. And the thing would be heating up over there. Not to mention the subways. But I also did Terrence McNally's first play there, The Other
Things That
Side of
Go-
the Door.
Oh, okay, right.
This never got done, I think, except when Bill Traylor and I did it there. I cut up and cooked a whole chicken in that play. And Terrence was a little boy who was in the play, the character that was Terrence was a little boy who was going to play Chiquita Banana at school. He comes out in the whole thing, and he's just a little boy. And Edward and Dick Barr and Chuck Bowden owned...
Edward Albee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They owned the Cherry Lane at that time,
Right.
and they were putting all this stuff in. That's how I happened to do Terrence's play there.
Where did you guys eat, drink, hang out after a show at the Cherry Lane back in 1962? I mean, what did the Village feel like then? Do you remember?
I don't think I ever hung out anywhere because I was the sole support of two little babies, so... And, had no money. So I was always running home to get a little sleep before I had to get up and take him to the park.
But I raised
But I lived on 12th Street. Dusty and Barbara Harris lived
Right.
right on the next street to me. That was 11th Street.
Alan
then.
Arkin's house.
That's the 5th and 6th
abutted
spot.
my place.
Really?
Yeah.
Where were you, between 6th and 7th?
Yeah, and he was on
'Cause
Bank
we were
Street.
between 5th and 6th.
Were you guys all friends? I
It
mean,
was
were hang-
quiet. It was like a neighborhood,
Yeah,
Well, there were fewer people in the world.
I had two poker games. I raised five kids. Raised 5 kids in the Village. They all went to PS41. I've got 4 grandchildren there now in PS41.
And you said something about poker games?
I had 2 poker games. Yeah, I had a game with Patty Chayefsky, and then there was the Terrence McNally, Bobby Driver's Jimmy Coco game that was hilarious.
Bobby Drivers did Mrs. Dally with me.
He earned his living playing poker. He was a great poker player. But I can remember helping Jimmy Coco put out the food for the game and watching him eat the bread while he was putting it out, and then turn to me and say, "Where the hell did I put the bread?"
See, men have all the fun. I mean, I can't talk about 2 poker games. What can I talk about? Doing the
were-
laundry or
Happy
something?
baby. Well, and then you
Eating
went,
the ice cream out of the...
but still, then you went off after Mrs. Dally Has a Lover. You won the Theater World Award.
I did.
And then next thing, boom, boom, you're in Bonnie and Clyde winning an Oscar.
Did your career take off before that of your contemporaries who were all still struggling in the Village? And suddenly overnight Estelle Parsons
I
becomes...
started very late.
Because you were on
I
the
was
Today Show as a
32
commentator.
or something already.
You already
That
had
was
a
my
career.
9 to 5 when I got to New York. I was never interested. I worked in the theater. I did 2 reviews at Julius Monk's. The first show I did was on West 4th Street. It was Jerry Herman's first review.
Oh, right, yes.
On West 4th
What was
Street,
that called?
Jim Eiler had a place there called the Show Place. It's a dress shop now. And there were rats running around the top of the bar. We'd sit in the bar in the evenings. And then Lenny Bruce, a little while later, was down the other end of Bleecker Street. I used to follow him around the village, he always used to carry a paper bag. I always wanted to know what was in that paper bag, but I never found out.
Well, thank goodness you didn't find out, huh?
And when you're down in that neighborhood, when you're all, I mean, everybody you mentioned has become, an icon in this business. Do you remember the first person among your group who suddenly makes it and leaps ahead of everybody else? Do you remember when that happens?
Don't ask me that question.
Oh, no, please.
That's a tough.
Do you?
Well,
Estelle wants to know.
I was the first one to get a house. I did a movie called The Strawberry Statement.
Oh my goodness, that's right. That was
I
big
won a
one.
prize at Cannes.
Yeah.
I got paid enough money to buy a house. And when I bought the house, it became a clubhouse, but everybody treated me differently because I had a house. How can I ever buy a house in Greenwich Village now? I mean, it's out of the question.
Well, you're rich now. Now you're a legend. You could buy another one.
Just because you're a legend, you're not rich. It just means you're old.
The reason I ask about, a group of people who are kind of struggling at the same time, because there's always one who sort of jumps up. And I'm reminded of Michael Blakemore's very good memoir called Arguments with England. And he was a contemporary of Harold Pinter. And they were all young playwrights and actors at that time. And then Harold had his first play, which The Caretaker, maybe, I'm not sure was. And Blakemore just describes how they live in the same neighborhood. But Harold is now getting pinker and pinker with success when he sees him walking down the street. And then one day he's not walking down the street anymore. He has a Rolls Royce. And the rest of them are still in their cold water flats. And there's their buddy Harold going to the theater Rolls Royce. So it must have been like all your friends are out. Dustin Hoffman, they're all around there saying,
Well,
he's got the house. The guy's got the house.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't a Rolls Royce. Speaking of, but John Lennon then moved to Bank Street with his white Rolls Royce, and that was something in the neighborhood. But it was so different then. I mean, we were a group of 10, 12, 14 playwrights who were friends, and we all got plays produced all the time.
All the time, yeah.
I had published a book called First Season. It was the year that Indian Wants the Bronx opened, and I had 4 plays on in New York
Wow.
in that one season, and I'm sure Terrence had 4 plays on.
Everything takes so much longer now, it seems. I mean, how long does it
It's
take?
just so much more expensive now.
The big difference is there were so far fewer people, and that's what I keep thinking. It was a manageable life. Well, in 1940s is the last time that the Earth had a sustainable human population. In 1940, that's 4 billion. Now it's 8 billion.
Too many actors.
Yeah. Oh. So we kill him now or later? But he's right. There are too many actors.
I was in my wife and I were in China 4 weeks ago. They were doing my play Line, actually, and it opened in the city called Shenzhen that had 35 years ago had 11,000 people living in the city. 35 years later, it's 11 million people with an average age of 26.
Oh my God.
26.
Well, there's a very big potential audience, though, for you to make some big weekly grosses, Israel.
I suppose, but it's like, where is that going?
Yeah.
Where does
But we want a lot of those people to go to the Cherry Lane Theater, and
Can
They
you
won't
imagine
get in. It's
if
only
the-
176 seats.
178.
and see
178.
And wander around that
Out
beautiful
of
neighborhood,
Babes.
Commerce Street
Yeah.
and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't
it's
Jose
great.
Quintero live in one of those townhouses across the street from?
Yes, he did.
But the biggest one is at the St. Vincent Malay, isn't it? Isn't
The
that the
littlest
most
one.
famous house?
She's that little house
around the corner. Her
Yeah.
ship magnate husband rented that for a year while she was writing Ballad of the Harp Weaver.
Is that is she the one who fell down the stairs?
The address?
78 and a half. 78 and a half Bedford Street.
Yeah.
But Jose lived in those fascinating houses across, and then
The
didn't
two sisters.
the two sisters had those houses?
Yeah.
Now,
But this is-
enough of Jose because
No,
the
hold on one
crew
second.
has to go home.
No, hold on,
And
hold on.
we have to wrap up.
I'm going to wrap. Hold on one
Oh,
second.
all right.
I've got to weigh in. Relax. So, yeah, but this is interesting. So when you go to see the
assume you read
play,
it, right?
yeah.
Right, because Jose Quintero is a good lead into the ending. All right, go ahead.
No, I'm telling you, but it's fascinating. So when you go to see, I'm telling you, when you go to see Out of the Mouths of Babes at the Cherry Lane, do yourself a favor and wander around that neighborhood because it's beautiful and it has a deep connection to the history of theater in this city. Because not only did Jose Quintero live in that house, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Kim Hunter
lived
Live
directly-
next door.
No, she lived directly above,
Above
the
the
theater.
theater, yeah.
That's right.
And Jose Quintero was my mentor and dear, dear friend. And he was on the original board of the Cherry Lane Theater as well.
And is Kim Hunter in what is now your office?
No.
Not
Kim,
that building.
Next door.
Kim Hunter was directly above the studio theater. And her now her grandson is living there with her
Oh, yeah?
great-grandchildren.
So it is a neighborhood steeped in theater history.
Patty
Yeah.
Chayefsky used to live and write on Barrow Street. And years later, he was telling me that he just couldn't write. He was just blocked. And he was reminiscing about Barrow Street. And I said, why don't you go rent a studio on Barrow Street? And he did. And he couldn't write a word.
Didn't work. All right, the play is Out of the Mouths of Babes by Israel Horovitz at the Cherry Lane Theater.
Very
starring-
funny.
Very funny. Angelina Fiordellisi. Did I get that?
Yes.
And Estelle Parsons.
Estelle Parsons.
Estelle Parsons, I would sit home as a teenager looking at Theater World and thinking, oh, I wanted to be you. You were the coolest actress.
She's still the coolest.
You still are, but what I'm saying is I have idolized you for decades.
Oh my gosh.
You don't look that old.
I am. All right.
And she stands on her head every morning, right?
Right.
That's right.
And
All right.
Judith Ivey.
Stands on her
Yes.
head too?
No, is in
in the play as well.
And Francesca Troy
Key.
Key, who's great.
Four great actresses at a great historic theater. Can't miss it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Thank you for being our guest tonight.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks for
Thank
inviting
you.
us.
Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Corey and Bob Dinelli Charitable Fund, the Noel Coward Foundation, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, and the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you